Let's take this conversation further now. We speak to the ANC's First Deputy Secretary General, Nomvula Mokonyane, who's joining us in studio to talk about the very latest when it comes to the ceasefire agreement. Yesterday, we heard about the ceasefire agreement, the text. We're hearing that there's been an agreement there. But now, reports are suggesting that the Israeli government still hasn't met to agree on this.
Firstly, we must appreciate the initiative. It actually contributes to what the African National Congress and the South African government, including many others who believe in social justice, have been calling for. A call for ceasefire and also a facilitation of dialogue amongst all formations, including those in Palestine. What has now emerged, it's something that we must take as a base for the implementation of the rulings of the International Court of Justice. Secondly, when the Israeli government says they have not received or they have not commented so far, I think what is of importance is that those that facilitated must hold both parties accountable.
So when it comes to accountability, what does it look like? Especially because there are some who are concerned to say that what happens if one party does not agree to anything now, and then you have to take it back to the drawing board, and the catastrophe that we continue to see in Gaza continues?
It is on those bases that we, as the African National Congress, believe that the legal processes through the international institutions and other multinational platforms must proceed, so that then somebody and a country and affected individuals must also be held accountable. So this does not actually mean that we have to now pull out of the many processes that have started to unfold. This is just but one point that is within the ruling that has been made. And we need to then also commend the international anti-apartheid movement that has also backed our call. And we know that it came at a heavy price for the ANC, but because we stood for it on the basis of principle, we still also believe that Israel itself has to respect the initiative, and it has to actually consider the pain that has been endured, not only by the Palestinians, but also ordinarily the citizens of Israel. This is time to make peace, and it's not also a 15 months kind of atrocity. It spreads across years, and that on its own shows that the world itself is quite tired of this, and therefore no one must play games, and we need, as the global anti-apartheid movement, to continue to call for justice, for sovereignty of Palestine, and most importantly, in the immediate, the creation of opportunities so that there can be access to food and essential goods that are needed in the occupied territories.
I know you say that there should be accountability on both sides, but when you look at some of what's coming out in terms of reports, you see that Israel is concerned that Hamas may be reneging on the agreement. You then see other reports that are saying that Hamas is actually saying it agrees with its text. So how concerned are you that these talks may collapse?
We want to give these talks a chance. The agreement is just too fresh to be doubted, and those that have facilitated must be given the space to hold both sides by hand and push them towards compliance with what is contained in that agreement.
Do you think they can?
We believe they can. The very fact that all of them throughout the past few months have been engaging in Qatar is something that has to be appreciated. Every initiative that seeks to bring peace and harmony and a national sovereignty of the people of Palestine for Palestine, it's something that we need to welcome. Of course, we know that Israel has been very inconsistent, and hence the legal route should be something that is actually being strengthened, so that then everybody can see what justified the position that the ANC informed the South African government to take.
How much of an impact, though, do you believe that these legal routes can have? And I ask this because you think about, for example, the case at the ICJ. There were those who were saying that how do you begin to ensure that whatever agreement is reached there or the ruling is actually enforced? And there are some who are saying that while there may be legal processes that are unfolding, ultimately there are those who still continue as if it's business as usual, and thus speaking to the issue of enforceability.
The issue of the transformation, the reforms of these multilateral institutions is quite important, as we have always been calling, but also consistency, so that it should not only be those who are coming from underdeveloped nations or so-called third world countries that will always be held accountable by these bodies. The Israeli government is not the supreme government of the world, as well as those that can justify. What has been also good, even their own allies are now saying this is rather too much and nothing beyond this. So we call even on those that have been walking this atrocious journey with Israel to actually impress upon Netanyahu and his people that this has to come to an end, because it is not only the Palestinians that suffer, even ordinary peace-loving people of Israel do want peace.
You speak about the price that you say all of this came at a cost for the ANC. Take us into your confidence.
you know, there's been calls for the isolation of the South African government. You know that even as we're going to elections, this was used as an election a message against the African National Congress, and we stood by it. We refused to even pull out of that on the eve of elections. We are quite aware that even those that historically are supposed to be progressive here in South Africa, but have got leanings with the Israeli government and the people of Israel, opted to take a stance against the African National Congress. The call for change in South Africa during the elections, amongst others, there was the peddling of the stance that we have taken as the African National Congress. But we live not to regret, because we believe that this is a just cause, and it is a program that, not even a project, but a program that has to contribute towards a peaceful and a better world.
I know you speak of allies and what they've had to say towards the Israeli government, but when it comes to the institutions, do you think there's a willingness to transform? And I ask this because countless number of times we've seen what has been taking place in the UN Security Council, and quickly how that dissipates and they move on. They cannot agree. Countries have veto power, they veto that, and you move on. Can we see going into the coming years a willingness to transform? Because that has been raised as a huge concern, that you've got countries who have veto power and they can quickly just disappear an issue.
The very fact that the UN itself has faced humiliation by Israel, we believe that it has pushed them in the corner where they are also reflecting on these issues. The issues around our regional and continental positions, strengthening the AU and speaking in one voice, and ensuring that all of us who are part of the African Union and those that are part of other progressive formations such as BRICS, we need to have a common voice and avoid a situation where we are divided by those that assume that they've got a penultimate voice, including our own friends, the Communist Party of China. We are engaging them in these issues, because there can't be justice if others have got a supreme voice above everybody under the guise of a veto power.
Let's shift gears slightly before I let you go. You just came back from Mozambique, from the inauguration of President Daniel Chapo. There are some who've criticized President Cyril Ramaphosa's attendance there, and I'm quoting the DA. They say that this action disregards the escalating political and humanitarian crisis in that country. How do you respond?
They're so ill-informed. Of course, we have seen people who have delayed the inauguration of the president, and we have seen Frelimo and the majority of the people of Mozambique waiting patiently for the due processes. The results were declared, the results were contested. The highest court in the land in Mozambique has actually pronounced. And I think if all of us are saying we believe in the rule of law, We believe in national sovereignty. We believe that there's a constitution in Mozambique. A person coming with a lousy 10% can't want to undermine the voice of the majority. And now that there is authority, we do hope that, as Comrade Chapo has made a commitment in his statement yesterday, that there has to be a national dialogue, not negotiations, a national dialogue amongst Mozambicans on how to move Mozambique forward. This morning, there was a big national prayer that was also initiated by various church formations who are calling for peace, but also who are calling for accountability, particularly by those who believe that they can continue to instill violence. But that violence, we also know, it is precisely because the regime change agenda had failed, and those that had actually done what they tried to do here in South Africa, that they've won elections, and when the courts declared that they have lost, they opted to go to the streets, has to come to an end. SADC, the AU, all of us, liberation movements, everybody. I don't understand why people have got an issue about Comrade President going to Mozambique. These are our neighbors. Their instability has a serious impact on us. You know what is happening now with illegal mining. You know what is happening with undocumented foreigners. And therefore, we need to work together around economic diplomacy, people-to-people relationship, so that then the rural and the underdeveloped areas of Mozambique can prosper, and we can then avoid seeing the influx that is coming through in this regard. In fact, everybody, even other countries that were represented, were quite happy to see that President Cyril Ramaphosa, the immediate neighbor, is there to come and witness a very memorable inauguration that has defeated the regime change agenda.
All right, thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it. That's the ANC's First Deputy Secretary General, Nomvula Mokonyane.